This is the scapula, and there are lots of parts of the scapula that you need to know. We'll start with the anchoring part of the scapula. We'll start with the spine, because if you know the spine, you're going to know a lot of regions of the scapula. So this is the spine, and leading from the spine, we have the acromion. This is the acromion. We have two processes sticking off, the acromion and the coracoid process. So students sometimes get those confused. Which one's the coracoid process? Which one is the acromion? The acromion comes straight off the spine, and I tell my students to remember which one is the coracoid process and which one is the spine, because you can remember that it makes a word like spine, and then acromion, AS, like A, S, and then the coracoid process is the other one right here. So this is the coracoid process, and this is the acromion. And the acromion comes from the spine. So the coracoid process does not come from the spine, the acromion does. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but it makes sense to me. And then this is the glenoid cavity. This glenoid cavity articulates with the head of the humerus. It's a very small glenoid cavity. And then from the spine, above the spine, we have a fossa. This fossa is called the supraspinous fossa because it's above the spine. And this fossa is called the infraspinous fossa because it's below the spine. Now, we're going to have several borders. This is called the medial border. And it's called the medial border because it's on the inside of your back. And this is the lateral border because it's on the outside of your back. So the lateral border, the medial border, and this is the inferior angle. It's at the bottom of the scapula. And this is the superior angle because it's at the top of the scapula. And then we have the superior border right here, which leads down into this notch. This is the suprascapular notch. The suprascapular nerve runs through this notch, so that's what makes this little notch in this region right here. So some other things to show out. If we turn the scapula over, like this, this is the subscapular fossa. In these fossae, these are areas where muscles run. Very important muscles that stabilize the shoulder muscle, the shoulder joint. If we had our humerus here, we would have the glenohumeral joint, and to stabilize the glenohumeral joint, we have the tendons of the rotator cuff. And so the rotator cuff muscles will be the muscles that run along these fossae. So this is our spine, and this is remember the name of this fossa? This is the infraspinous fossa. So the muscle that's going to run along this is the infraspinatus muscle, and it will run across this infraspinous fossa, and it will run across this area right here, across the head of the humerus, and it will grab onto the humerus, and it will help stabilize the glenohumeral joint. And this fossa, do you remember the name of this fossa? This is supraspinous fossa. We have another muscle that's part of the rotator cuff. The name of the muscle that runs in this region is the supraspinatus muscle, and it's going to run in the same area. It's in the same way. It's going to run across in this area, over the joint, and grab onto the humerus, and it's called the supraspinatus muscle. So we have the infraspinatus muscle running in this direction, the supraspinatus muscle running in this direction, and then actually we have another muscle that would be part of the rotator cuff. We have the teres minor muscle that would be running from this direction over. If we flip the scapula over, what's the name of this fossa? That is the subscapularis fossa. We would have the subscapularis muscle that runs actually from this direction over. That's our last rotator cuff muscle. Somebody's knocking at my door, so I'm going to get that now. Actually, we have one more thing on this bone that I've not gone over, and that would be this little bump right here. And this little bump, before I get the door, I bet they'll knock again. This little bump right here is called the infraglenoid tubercle, and that tubercle is an attachment site for the long head of the triceps brachii muscle. And so I guess that's it for this video. I hope I didn't leave anything off, and I bet they've left now. I don't really care.